47.5. Thighs are a little over 21. Weight is 140 on the dot. So there's some news out. Oh, you're noisy. Quit it. Come here. Come here, Mama. You're noisy. I keep a bell on the collars of all my cats. They all have a little bell, so I can hear them. And I can hear them when they're out, so I know where they are. Even if I can't see them, if I can hear them, I know that they're okay and they're nearby. So I like this bell, but it can be really noisy sometimes when they're moving around. So there's some news out. Stem cell research is working on a way to basically grow meat, cow meat patties in a petri dish in a laboratory. The reason why they're trying to do this is because animal agriculture is so destructive to the environment and so economically unsustainable. The United Nations know this, scientists know this, everybody knows this. That's why they started doing this stem cell research. They take stem cells out of a cow and they, I forgot what they added to it. They add something to it, hormones I think, and they basically grow these stem cells into large slabs of muscle in a petri dish. So it sounds, does not sound appealing or appetizing, but of course Americans will eat anything, so I'm sure a lot of people are willing to try it. So it is cells from a cow. It's not like a meat analog or anything. It is actual cow material, cow tissue, cow substance. So it's not fake meat or anything. It comes from real cow cells. And so we're slaughtering billions and billions of farm animals every year. These animals need land to be raised on, despite the fact that most of them are confined and packed together like sardines in a building. And using land to raise these animals is polluting the soil because of all of the wastewater and what they call manure lagoons, just these big areas of sewage-flooded land that's just been flooded with sewage from the runoff from these farms, factory farms. It also takes a tremendous amount of crops to feed these animals and water to feed these animals. These animals are artificially inseminated routinely to reproduce at a very fast rate. And they create a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. So that is why they're trying to grow meat in a petri dish in a laboratory instead of having to continue to slaughter animals and use land to raise them. Actually, the last one should use animals, use land to raise them, and then slaughter them. It has proven to be economically unsustainable. And if we continue doing this, there's going to be lots of problems with land toxification, as well as air toxification. So, but in terms of eating fruits and vegetables, you can't really go wrong with planting seeds and growing plants on the earth. The more plants on the earth, the better. Because plants clean the soil and they detoxify the air. They pull toxins out of the air. They turn it into oxygen. So the more plant farms on the earth, the better, really. The more plants, the purer the air will be. Mama, get out of there. Get out of there, silly girl. Come here, get out of there. Get out of there. Silly girl. So is eating a plant-based diet better for the environment? Absolutely. And like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with eating plants. You're not committing murder when you eat a plant, when you eat a fruit or vegetable. So what do you think? Would you eat this petri dish cow patty? I want to say it's much better than, if people have to have their meat, it's still not healthy. But if you have to have your meat that bad, I would rather it be grown in a petri dish than come from the body of a tortured, slaughtered animal that had to go through a lot of pain just so someone can have a greasy hamburger. So I'm kind of supporting this idea. I haven't researched it in depth, but I don't know what all the applications are and how it affects cows per se. I guess they just have some cows sitting around in a lab or whatever, get the stem cells transported from a farm to a laboratory. I'm not sure how they do it. Like I said, I haven't researched all that. But I would rather someone just stick a little syringe in a cow and extract some stem cells than stud it in the brain with a gun, hang it upside down by one animal, slit its throat open, let it bleed to death while it's still alive, cut off its legs, send it through a scalding tank, sometimes still alive, where it can feel everything. These cows go through a very horrific process where they're just ripped apart piece by piece, sometimes still conscious. So if I had to choose between that and people eating petri dish burgers, I'll choose the petri dish burgers. Before I went vegan, I had a complete misinterpretation of animal slaughter. I thought in this day and age, they probably just line them all up and maybe... I literally thought, this is what I thought they did. This is what I wanted to believe. I literally thought that animals were just given like a lethal injection and they just kind of drifted away to sleep, never to wake up again. That's really what I thought. That's what I thought the process was. It is not like that at all. it's much more painful and much more of a nightmare for these animals. Again, the people who work on farms, ranchers, and people who are in the business, you know, it's nothing new to them. It's normal life to them. It's just daily life to them. They don't see it as abnormal or cruel or strange, because it's the way they make a living. And it's very sad that people have built their livelihoods and are supporting their families on murdering animals and raising animals for slaughter. So, Petri dish burgers, yay or nay? I don't know. Like I said, I don't see any health benefits in a Petri dish burger grown from cow stem cells. It sounds strange, but if it's going to save the lives of animals, it's not going to save the lives of humans, because I wonder if I can find the nutrition information of one of these Petri dish burgers. That would be interesting. Of course, they say that you get protein and iron and all this other stuff from animal meat, and that you get all these nutrients. I believe the only reason, I believe they're just trace nutrients left over from when the animal originally got some plant food. Because plant food is where all nutrients originate. And when the animals eat the plant food, traces of it are left in the body. Like fish. People say you should eat fish because fish have a lot of omega-3s. Fish get their omega-3s from the algae and the plant life that they eat in the ocean. So you don't have to eat this cholesterol-laden fish to get omega-3s. Also, nuts are loaded with omega-3s. Okay, it's called in vitro meat. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. I like Wikipedia. I think there's a lot of false information on Wikipedia in terms of nutrition. But there's also a lot of good information. Like if you look up meat and all that, Wikipedia will say that meat is a good source of food and all that, which is not right. But it also addresses the issues of heart disease and all that, which is right. So Wikipedia says in vitro meat, also known as cultured meat, victimless meat, that's interesting, cruelty-free meat, test tube meat, tube steak, okay. Schmeat is an animal flesh product that has never been a part of a living animal. Since the start of the 21st century, several research projects have worked on in vitro meat. The first in vitro beef burger created by a Dutch man was eaten at a demonstration for the press in London in August 2013. The first in vitro beef burger created by a Dutch team was eaten at a demonstration for the press in London in August 2013. That's recently. There's still many difficulties to overcome before in vitro meat can be available in the supermarkets. As far as production, they're going to have to produce a lot of this stuff. And they're still trying to figure out a way to produce it on a mass scale. Cultured meat is currently prohibitively expensive, but it is anticipated that the cost could be reduced to compete with conventionally obtained meat as a technology evolves. The process of developing in vitro meat involves taking muscle cells and applying a protein that promotes tissue growth. In this process, it has been started. It would be theoretically possible to continue producing meat indefinitely without introducing new cells from a living organism. It has been claimed that conditions being ideal, 2 months of in vitro meat production could deliver up to 50,000 tons of meat from 10 pork muscle cells. In vitro meat may be produced as strips of muscle fiber. Muscle fiber is not the same thing as dietary plant fiber. Not the same thing at all. Muscle fiber is not what cleans you out and makes your stomach flat. It's a different kind. It's just the long fibrous strands of muscle tissue. It's not the same thing as dietary fiber that you get from greens and fruit. Very different. In vitro meat may be produced as strips of muscle fiber which grow through the fusion of precursor cells, either embryonic stem cells or specialized satellite cells found in muscle tissue. This type of meat can be cultured in a bioreactor. Yummy. Bioreactor, what is that? Find out what that is. A bioreactor may refer to a manufactured or engineered device or system that supports a biologically active environment. Well, duh. In one case, a bioreactor is a vessel in which a chemical process is carried out, which involves organisms or biochemically active substances derived from such organisms. So it's basically a little house to grow stuff in, sounds like, or a little container to grow stuff in. Alternatively, meat could be grown into real muscle, real in quotation marks. However, this would require something akin to a circulatory system. Oh my god, it just sounds so gross reading about it. Ew. This would require something akin to a circulatory system in order to deliver nutrients and oxygen close to the growing cells, as well as to remove the waste products. So if you want real muscle, you got to have blood flowing through the muscle, delivering blood and oxygen. Other cell types, such as adipocytes, I'm not sure how you say that. Adipocytes, also known as lipocytes and fat cells, are the cells that primarily compose adipose tissue. Specialized in storing energy as fat. So those are like fat cells. Other cell types, such as adipocytes, fat cells, would also need to be grown, and chemical messengers should provide clues to the growing tissue about the structure. Muscle tissue would also need to be physically stretched or exercised in order to properly develop. In vitro meat production requires a preservative such as sodium benzoate to protect the growing meat from yeast and fungus. Collagen powder, xanthan gum, mannitol, and cochineal could be used in different ways during the process. So while they're growing this meat, they're going to have to coat it in preservatives to keep all the fungus off of it. The price of in vitro meat at retail outlets like grocery stores and supermarkets may decrease prices to levels that middle-class consumers consider to be inexpensive due to technological advancements. Challenges. The science for in vitro meat is an outgrowth of the field of biotechnology known as tissue engineering. The technology is simultaneously being developed along with other uses for tissue engineering, such as helping those with muscular dystrophy, blah, 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 blah. So one good thing is this research can be applied to helping humans as well, who are suffering from physical problems. Growing transplant organs. There are several obstacles to overcome if it has any chance of succeeding at the moment. To the most notable ones. At the moment, the most notable ones are scale and cost. So the challenges they face right now are producing this tissue on a large scale at an affordable cost. Proliferation of muscle cells. Although it is not very difficult to make stem cells divide, for meat production it is necessary that they divide at a quick pace, producing the solid meat. This requirement has some overlap with the medical branch of tissue engineering. Culture medium. Proliferating cells need a food source to grow and develop. The growth medium should be a well-balanced mixture of ingredients such as growth factors. Scientists have already identified possible growth media for turkey, fish, sheep, and pig muscle cells. Depending on the motives of the researchers, the growth medium has additional requirements. Commercial. The growth medium should be inexpensive to produce. A plant-based medium may be less expensive than fetal bovine serum. Fetal bovine serum. Okay. Now we're getting into it. I believe that anytime you have to use any kind of animal product for mass production, it's going to lead to animal abuse. And it says right here, they may have to use fetal bovine serum. However, they are saying a plant-based growth factor is less expensive, so I hope they go with that. Because anytime you have to use an animal product for anything, you're exploiting animals. You're exploiting animals for the purpose of producing a product on a mass scale for the market, for consumers. And anytime you're getting into using an animal product, animals are going to be enslaved and abused, especially if it's on an enormous scale. So, how are they going to harvest these stem cells? How are the cows going to be treated? Where are they going to be kept? How are they going to be confined? How are they going to be treated? That's what I want to know. How are they going to harvest these stem cells continually? Environmental. The production of the growth medium should not have a negative effect on the environment. That's one of the main reasons why they're doing this, is because clearing land, clearing beautiful, valuable, very valuable rainforest land, cutting down all the trees and just degrading the land to dirt so they can put some cattle on there and fatten up the cattle to slaughter for meat is not environmentally sustainable or beneficial. Should not have a negative effect on the environment. Well, at least we're in agreement with that. This means that the production should be energetically favorable. Ideally, ingredients should come from completely renewable sources. Minerals from mine sources are in this case not possible, nor are synthetically produced nutrients, which use non-renewable sources. Okay, so synthetically reproduced synthetic ingredients come from non-renewable resources. And renewable is the whole point here. That's what they're shooting for. Because slaughtering animals is not a renewable resource. Animal welfare. The growth medium should be devoid of animal sources. The growth medium should be devoid of animal sources, except for the initial mining of the original stem cells. Well, good. Non-allergenic. While plant-based growth media are more realistic, quote, more realistic, unquote, and reduce possibility of infectious agents, because a dead animal carcass, it's like pathogen city with a dead animal carcass. That's why you have to cook it, to kill all the pathogens. It's like going to a morgue and taking out a dead body and breaking out your fork and knife and cutting off a piece, cooking it. It's no difference. It's a dead body. Skin, bones, blood, muscles. There's no difference between human and animal. Well, humans are animals. So, anyway, it's like pathogen city with a dead carcass. Reduced possibility of infectious agents. There's also possibility that plant-based growth media may cause allergic reactions to some consumers. I don't know why that is. Possibility that plant-based growth media may cause allergic reactions to some consumers. Well, I don't know what kind of plants they're using. A lot of people have food allergies from not being fed properly when they were younger, from antibiotics. Antibiotics cause food allergies. So they're unable, alcohol, drinking a lot causes food allergies. So people are unable to digest even healthy food properly because the bacteria growth in their stomach has been so damaged. There's lots of bacteria, healthy bacteria we have in our gut that help break down foods properly. And when that bacteria is destroyed or no longer available, healthy food cannot be broken down properly, and it causes adverse reactions to people. Bioreactors. Nutrients and oxygen need to be delivered close to each growing cell on the scale of millimeters. In animals, this job is handled by blood vessels. A bioreactor should emulate this function in an efficient manner. The usual approach is the creation of a sponge-like matrix in which the cells can grow and perfusing it with the growth medium. Differences from conventional meat. Health. Large scale. Okay, let's see what Wikipedia has to say about the health section. Differences from conventional meat. So they're comparing in vitro meat to conventional meat. Health. Large scale production of in vitro meat may require artificial growth hormones to be added to the culture for meat production. So again, we're getting into these artificial growth hormones. Large-scale production of in vitro meat may require artificial growth hormones to be added to the cultures for meat production. I think these are the same things that contribute to the growth of cancer. Growth hormones grow tumors. Researchers have suggested that omega-3 fatty acids could be added to in vitro meat as a health bonus. So they're adding all these artificial laboratory-made nutrients. In a similar way, the omega-3 fatty acid content of conventional meat can also be increased by altering what the animals are fed. An issue of Time magazine has suggested that the in vitro process may also decrease exposure of the meat to bacteria and disease due to the strictly controlled and predictable environments of both in vitro meat farming and vertical farming. So vertical farming is building a large building, tower, and filling all the floors with plants, growing plants in a tall building. Instead of covering a large area of acreage of land, you just build up. It is predicted that there will be reduced exposure to dangerous chemicals like pesticides and fungicides, severe injuries, and wildlife. So that sounds good. So again with the artificial growth hormones and artificial nutrients, everything artificial, and all that artificiality is what's bad for your body. So there's really not much nutrition in this. It sounds extremely processed. I mean, completely processed, artificial. Artificiality is actually the very next bullet point. Although in vitro meat consists of natural meat cells, consumers may find such a high-tech approach to food production distasteful. Distasteful. Look what people are eating now. I don't think they're going to care. In vitro meat has been disparagingly described as Frankenmeat, reflecting a sentiment that it is unnatural and therefore wrong. But it's not wrong to saw the head off of a baby calf while it's completely conscious and then eat it. Although in vitro meat consists of natural meat, okay, I already read that. If in vitro meat turns out to be different in appearance, taste, smell, and texture, or other factors, it may not be commercially competitive with conventionally produced meat. The lack of fat and bone. Cooper, you're noisy. You're noisy, Cooper. You're noisy, Cooper. Come on. Buddy. The cat's just jiggling away. Okay, where was I? If in vitro meat turns out to be different in appearance, taste, smell, texture, or other factors, it may not be commercially competitive with conventional produced meat. The lack of fat and bone may also be a disadvantage. The lack of fat and bone may also be a disadvantage, for these parts make appreciable culinary contributions. Fat and bone, yummy. Animal fat and bone. However, the lack of bones and or fat may make many traditional meats like buffalo wings more palatable to small children. Oh my gosh, just the idea of small children being fed this stuff, or small children munching on dead bodies, is even worse. Well, it's the same thing, really. Colorful in vitro meatball products, especially tailored to their dietary needs, could allow children to get accustomed to eating in vitro meat. Ugh. Yuck. So they're going to smash some of this in vitro meat together and dye it like a bunch of gumballs. Bright red, bright yellow, bright purple. Who knows what they're going to do? Here, kid, eat your in vitro meatball candy. And, oh my gosh. So that's their answer. Make it bright and colorful so the kids will want to eat it. And they'll probably coat it in sugar. What do you want to bet? Environmental. Some have speculated that in vitro meat might require fewer resources and produce less greenhouse gas and other waste than conventional meat production. For every acre that is used for vertical farming and in vitro meat manufacturing, anywhere between 10 acres to 20 acres of land may be converted from conventional agriculture usage back into its natural state. So that sounds good. Vertical farms, in addition to in vitro meat facilities, could exploit methane digesters to generate a small portion of its own electrical needs. Could exploit methane digesters. I don't know let's see what a methane digester is. Anaerobic digestion is a collection of processes by which microorganisms break down biodegradable material in the absence of oxygen. The process is used for industrial or domestic purposes to manage waste and or to produce fuels. Much of the fermentation used industrially to produce food and drink products, as well as home fermentation, uses anaerobic digestion. Okay. So it's basically reusing waste. Vertical farms, in addition to in vitro meat facilities, could exploit methane digesters to generate a small portion of its own electrical needs and turn it, process waste and turn it into electricity. Methane digesters could be built on site to transform the organic. This all just sounds very destructive. I mean, more big, tall buildings requiring electricity. Just plant fruits and vegetables and grow them. You don't have to use any electricity. Really, everyone should just be growing their own food. I mean, here in vertical farming, you're still talking about tall buildings with lots of electricity, and just methane digester plants. I mean, it all sounds just destructive. Methane digesters could be built on site to transform organic waste generated at the facility into biogas, which is generally composed of 65% methane along with other gases. This biogas could then be turned to generate electricity for the greenhouse or a series of bioreactors. So biogas, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Biogas typically refers to a gas produced by the breakdown of organic matter. So biogas is a type of gas, a waste product, gaseous waste product. A study by researchers at Oxford and the University of Amsterdam found that in vitro meat was potentially much more efficient and environmentally friendly, generating only 4% greenhouse gas emissions, reducing the energy needs of meat generation by up to 45%, and requiring only 2% of the land that the global meat livestock industry does. The patent holder for in vitro meat, the journalists Brendan L. Corner and Hannah 𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, a PhD student from Oxford University, all believe it has less environmental impact. This is in contrast to cattle farming, responsible for 18% of greenhouse gases and causing more damage to the environment than the combined effects of the world's transportation system. Okay, let me read that one again. This is in contrast to cattle farming, conventional cattle farming that's being used now. Cattle farming is responsible for 18% of greenhouse gases and causing more damage to the environment than the combined effects of the world's transportation systems. Than the combined effects of the world, the whole entire world's transportation systems. More damage than that. So it's very, very